Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It is Friday, August 22nd. This is Section 1904. I'm Darren Smith. He's John Gennaro. It is your weekend preview, getting set for what's going to be a pretty massive weekend in San Diego County. And that's not just us laying it on thick. Padres and Dodgers sort of speaks for itself. Saturday night, Snapdragon Stadium, SDFC. Portland Timbers, an opportunity to clinch a playoff spot. So that's kind of a big weekend here in sports, whether you're going into any of these games or going to try to go to a couple of different events or even just consuming it all from the couch or wherever you might be located. Glad to have you on board, Section 1904. We do have a guest today coming up. Speaking of SDFC and Portland, we're going to talk with Adam Susman. He is the host of the Timbers Review. This is a podcast. This is a Patreon account. This is somebody who is around the club all the time. He's a broadcaster and a reporter. So we're going to find out a little bit about the Portland Timbers. Not so much the X's and O's and what's going to happen Saturday at 7:30, but Portland for me has just always been one of those clubs that stood out as what you want to be if you're going to get into Major League Soccer. I went to Portland in 2016, and that's the first time I realized, wow, this Timbers Club thing is a real thing in Portland. Flags everywhere, people wearing jerseys. So really opened my eyes that Major League Soccer had grabbed a foothold in certain parts of the country. Fast forward to where we are in 2025, and we'll have that conversation coming up in a little bit. But Padres and Dodgers to start. John, are you ready? Are you cracking your knuckles? Are you putting it on the eye black? You ready to go?
I guess. I feel very suburban this morning. I had a friend of mine offered me tickets to tonight's game, and I thought about it, and this morning I sent him the text and I passed. Because I'm very suburban, Darren. It's a long drive. I also didn't want to deal with whatever the parking situation was going to be, the getting out of their situation was going to be. I didn't really want to deal with the Dodger fans and the hectic nature of a Friday night game against the Dodgers, especially a series for first place. It just all sounded like way too much. And I figured if I stayed home, the beer is cheaper. I can watch on TV. I can do a post-game show afterwards. Maybe we can do a post-game show afterwards. And that decided to be my choice. But I'm probably going to regret it somewhere around the middle of this game if it ends up being anything better than what we saw at Dodger Stadium last week.
Well, how can it not be better? And I know that these are
true.
Famous last words in baseball. You never say this sort of stuff. When I was doing the BP show with Flannery and Randy Jones, I remember one of those years I said something to the effect of, well, the good news is it's not going to get worse. And Flan looked, he's like, it can always get worse. He's like, I'm a Padre. It always gets worse around here. But, that was a different era. So I don't know how 41-20, I guess there's a couple of ways of looking at it. The baseball gods, John, are either really trying to give the Padres every last opportunity to make a run, being a game back, and there is so much deja vu here from where we were a week ago, where you have the Dodgers who are, they're struggling against an inferior opponent. Last time they got swept by the Anaheim Angels. This time they dropped 2 out of 3 to the Colorado Rockies. And you have the Padres just running roughshod over the San Francisco Giants, winning 3 out of 4 and winning the last 3. Roles a little bit reversed, I should say. One game back instead of 1 game up. No off day, though. No off day right into the series. Yeah. And the venues have changed. So the sports gods are either like, we're just going to tease this fan base to the point where it's like, oh, they're so close, and there's going to be a lot of dry humping for the NL West. Or it's like, we are trying to give you guys, we are not closing the door on this division. So what are you going to do with another opportunity here against this team that you're 2-8 against, but we keep giving you opportunities? And, you can tell me all you want, regular season, it's just it's not. Like, these are head-to-head matchups that really, really matter. So, you cannot control what it is that happens when the Dodgers are off playing somebody else, and they can't control what's happening when the Padres are playing somebody else. So, you'll forgive me for thinking that the head-to-head matchups really matter. But, I don't know what the sports gods are trying to tell us, the baseball gods. Maybe they just have a cruel sense of humor, and they just want us to suffer.
Yeah, maybe. I
sound defeated.
No. It's I'm deep in thought, and I think you're in the right place where it's like it's definitely going to be one of those two things after this weekend, right? It's either going to be the Padres were so close, but they're never going to get there, or it's going to be They learned from whatever the mistakes were last weekend. I also feel like we went into last weekend going, this is going to feel like a playoff series. This is going to have real playoff vibes like it did earlier in the season. And then it didn't. And I think the reason for that is because the Dodger fans at Dodger Stadium, who were overwhelmingly Dodger fans, I know there were some Padre fans there, they were looking at the series like, oh, come on, man, we're supposed to be better than this team. Like, what's going on? And then the Dodgers were better than the Padres, and they're like, okay, good, fine. But it wasn't like this, like, yeah, the Padres are our test. If we get past them, we're something. Like, they were worried. They were worried going into that series, and I don't know that by the end of that series, they were not worried anymore. They were just like, okay, good, we're better than the Padres for a weekend. Good, we can gloat about that. This weekend, in front of what should be a majority Padres fan crowd at Petco Park, the crowd is not going to be. I mean, they'll be worried, but I don't think it's going to be, unless things get out of hand where they get down early a lot in like all of these games. I think it's going to be more Padre fans going like, if we can do it, and then any signs that the Padres are able to, score a run, take a lead against the Dodgers, the crowd's just going to get more and more intense. It's going to be good. You got halfway through quoting a stat there that I was going to quote anyway, so I'll quote it for you. Padres are 31-35 on the road this year. They're 41-21 at home. They are a significantly better team at home than on the road. They're below 500 team on the road, and they win 2/3 of their games at home. That plays very much in the Padres' favor. I posted this on Blue Sky this morning, and someone wrote back, Padres are also 24-31 against teams that are over 500. So I don't know. Pick your favorite stat to make your favorite prediction. I don't know. I can't. I don't feel like this series can have that little juice 2 weekends in a row when the series is literally for first place in the division. I feel like we're going to get the series this weekend that we were hoping to get last weekend.
Right, unless everybody's just exhausted, like Fernando Tatis Jr. at the end of the day on Thursday.
God, I'm concerned
after the
about
Padres
him.
won 3 out of 4, and he's like, I need to rest. I don't know what Mike Schilt is talking about in his press conference that we want to play the Dodgers today. I need to rest, so I need to take a nap. And I understand that. I do. I understand that. Like it's been going, and you're in the middle of the stretch where you don't have any off days, and it all does feel like a blur, doesn't it? From Friday night, the off day a week ago Thursday, into the weekend, and then you're right back at Petco Park, and you're getting smoked in the first game, and you figure it out 2, 3, and 4, and now here come the Dodgers again. So it is starting to feel like a blur here on August 22nd. I do grant you that. I think it's possible to sit and say, like, I am tired, and our manager, even if he's just sort of speaking tongue in cheek about wanting to play the Dodgers immediately, he doesn't speak for the rest of us because he's not running around the outfield like we are. I thought that was funny.
That brings up a great point, Darren, because what is the job of the manager? To manage. And what's part of that job? Filling out the lineup card. Mike Schilt is so excited to fill up this lineup card tonight because A, they're going against a lefty, and B, Ryan O'Hearn and Gavin Sheets are 2 of the 3 guys in the lineup yesterday afternoon that had 0 hits. Mike Schilt cannot wait to pencil Jose Iglesias and whoever else, Bryce Johnson, into this lineup so that Ryan O'Hearn and Gavin Sheets can go back to sitting on the bench. That's why he wants to get to this Dodgers game as soon as possible.
Yeah. I know you sent me that video last night. You're like, I feel like I'm concerned. I'm like, I don't know. I thought he was kind of being funny. I thought he was trying to be funny. I think Fernando dropping an F-bomb into a live mic was, his whole point was, listen, let me set this up for people that haven't heard it. Marty posted this, Marty Caswell. Fernando was sitting there. He has no shirt on. And I guess Mike Schilt had said something during his post-game press conference about the Dodger series. He's like, I'm ready to go. He said, I'm ready to go right now. So, of course, they carry that into the clubhouse, and they go to Fernando, and Fernando's, he's sitting in his chair, and he's like, oh, your manager said he's ready to go right now. Are you ready to go? He's like, no. Like, I'm tired.
I need sleep.
I need a night's sleep. We're going hard here. And then he's like, fuck. And he literally says this out loud.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck. Like, Mike,
what more do you want from me?
Jesus. Can you give us a night's sleep? So I don't know. I thought it was a funny moment. I didn't think it was anything too concerning like what we had seen the previous day or two after that win on Tuesday night, where he's like, sort of despondent in it all. I didn't think it was that. I thought he was just like, yeah, we'll be ready tomorrow. But as for right now, I'm ready to go home and get in the air conditioning and just go to sleep. So
Yeah,
I'm good.
I guess that could have been. I mean, look, it probably was an exhausting game for Fernando, but I just watched that and I was like, he has no energy, none. Like it was like 4:00 in the afternoon, and he looked like if he had sat still long enough, he was gonna fall asleep,
Right.
sitting there. And I was just like, how can you be like? I know not every player or even person needs to fit into a certain category. This was the whole Moneyball thing of like, this guy looks good wearing a pair of jeans, we should draft him. But this is why baseball guys love baseball players like Jackson Merrill. Like after a win, Jackson Merrill comes in like on fire. It doesn't matter if he's tired. He's like, yeah, we got the win. I'm pumped up. Baseball's everything. And like you go to Fernando Tatis Jr., it's like, hey, you just won 3 games. You're a game back of first place, and the team that's in first place is coming to your stadium tomorrow. Are you amped up? He's like, man, I'm tired. And it's like there's just a level of like, do you have enjoyment in your life? Or like, do you need to see a doctor because you're like, vitamin D deficient? Like, the level of energy after wins coming off Fernando Tatis Jr. Just, I don't know. I said I was borderline concerned. I'm not actually concerned, but I'm like, the guy just seems like he lacks energy. Like, I'm not even going to go into like the mopey, the body language. He just looks exhausted. And like, I don't know what to do about that. There's probably nothing else to do about that.
I don't know either. I don't know. Maybe get that guy some Nature Bee. Get him get him a couple of herbal supplements or something. I don't know. Or maybe it's just this is what baseball is at August 22nd. You just are dog tired. Maybe when Jackson Merrill is way older, like 26 years old, he's going to start going, man, like I played a lot of ball. I'm not 21 anymore here. I don't know. I don't remember Fernando saying this sort of stuff on August 22nd of, 2019. I mean, I know he didn't finish that year, but you get the point. So I don't know. I thought it was I thought the stuff on Tuesday night, like, can you even pretend to be a little happy about a win and some of your teammates having success? I thought that was a little bit worse. And I don't know that I've ever heard Fernando cuss like that publicly. So I appreciated it. He's just like, fuck, tired. Like,
yeah, but that's like
save it, Schulte. What are you trying to do to us here? Are you running us into the ground? Come on.
This is a conversation for after the Dodgers series. Remind me, maybe we'll come back around to it. But you said something the other day about like, hey, if they're looking for places to get Ryan O'Hearn in the lineup, like maybe give Tatis a day off. And you were saying because he had some bad non-competitive at bats, and he's been better lately, stinging the ball. He's walking again. This last series against the Giants was good. He was a big part of why they won these last 3 games, but. I don't know. I think the guy needs some time off. Like, even if it's just a couple days. Hey, the next 2 days, you're not playing baseball. Like, go rest, go do whatever you need to do, come back fresh, whatever. But that's not a conversation for the Dodgers series. That's a conversation for post-Dodgers series.
No, figure it out, man. I mean, go get a Celsius or whatever it is you got to do.
Shot of wheatgrass.
Go whatever it is that's going to, get you to that energy level because it will be on. I think the crowd is going to be into it. I do. I don't know that. Maybe there will be a nervous energy inside of the building. I know I spent a lot of time talking about how I thought the Dodger fans would be quick to turn on the Dodgers had things not started going the Dodgers' way last weekend. But that never happened. That never happened. And, I mean, here's the one thing I could say as well. The results of last weekend seemed to surprise a lot of people, not just in San Diego, but also in Los Angeles. Yeah, I have friends who work in that organization. And, though they didn't come right out and say whoa, we thought we were going to get our asses kicked. Definitely got the sense it's like, this is a weird sport. How do you predict this? This is like a really, really, we didn't see this coming either. So, don't sit around thinking like, oh yeah, the Dodgers, they were playing possum. And, the Padres walked right into the trap or overcome it. Even some people that I know that are like, I've been there for a while are like, yeah, like this is a weird sport. I don't know how anybody can predict such a thing. So, I do think the results from last weekend, I think it did catch people on both sides by surprise. And hopefully we don't have a repeat of that. I mean, again, I will live with losing, I will live with losing. On Monday, if we have to say, listen, the whole Pedro Martinez the Dodgers are just the Padres' daddy at this point. The Padres are the
Yeah.
Padres. Dodgers are the Padres. I guess. If we have to
Who's
say
your
that,
Padre?
if we have to say something like that, then so be it. I mean, at this point, it's 2-10. So like, what more? Or 2-8. So what more can you say? But I just hope like you aren't killing yourself like with bad base running and curious decision making and defensive blunders that you don't expect. That's the thing. Like if you're gonna go down, we can talk about the merits of going down and silver linings and how you play. I guess for a lot of people, a loss is a loss, and who gives a shit? But I will say, like I mean, be competitive. Starting pitching, relief pitch, like it just none of it really worked, and it just was a weekend to completely toss into the bin. So I just we can't have that. Otherwise, then I'm going to believe that there is some sort of mental blockade between the Padres and the Dodgers that we're just going to have to hope to avoid somehow in October.
Yeah. And everything you just described to me translates to like mental toughness versus mental weakness. And I'm not calling anyone mentally weak, but when you lose because you make mistakes and bad decisions because the pressure's turned up, you're like, man, just like calm down. Have some belief in yourself. Like be mentally tough. And that's not what we saw last week. And yeah, if they lose, they lose. It's baseball. A lot of games. Shit happens. You go in the Hall of Fame if you can get a hit 30% of the time, but don't lose because you mentally backed yourself into a weird corner and started making mistakes as a result of it. It's not even like put your best foot forward. It's baseball. Just make sure that you are not overwhelming your brain with worry, and that's why you're losing the games. And I think we'll be pretty happy.
Darvish, Cortez, and Pivetta. Where's your confidence with that starting pitching lined up against Snell, Glasnow, and Yamamoto?
At home, it's pretty good. I'm a little concerned about Snell at Petco Park. But Glasnow's great, Yamamoto's great, but Darvish and Cortez and Pivetta, they're all good pitchers that if you put them in the Petco Park environment of the home crowd's cheering for you, this is a great spot for pitchers to get movement on their pitches and to deaden the ball off the bat. There's a good chance for all of them. I'm not overly confident, but I'm not overly worried. Does that make sense?
Sure. I mean, if I were to give you a magic wand and say you can line this series up however you want, starting pitching wise, based on availability, what would you do differently?
I mean, the only guy that is available that's not going would be Dylan Cease or JP Sears, so I'm probably not changing anything. I'm probably not changing anything. This is the best it's going to get right now until Michael King gets healthy, which who knows when that's going to be. There's an open spot in the rotation on Monday in Seattle. I'm kind of like, I don't know. We haven't heard anything about Michael King and his knee. Is he going to be? Are they inserting him back? Are we getting another JP Sears start? I don't know. But for this series, I'm fine with this. This is, you got Pivetta in there, and it's probably the best you're going to get. I know you made fun of it, and rightfully so. But like Nestor Cortez lost something the first 4 batters of that Giants game. Like lost his touch, lost his feel, lost his placement, lost something mechanically, and then he figured it out, and he was really good after that. Mm-hmm. And I really like Nestor Cortez. So I'm good with him pitching against the Dodgers at home. I think that's fine. And I don't know. I still have faith in Darvish. I don't know why. I do. Did you see the story where Manny gave him credit for like his home run the other day?
Yeah. He said something. Manny gave him a little bit of advice. He said that to JP Morosi, correct?
Yeah, you said that backwards. Manny said that Darvish gave him a little bit of hitting advice before he went up there and he hit his home run against the Giants.
Yeah, because he pointed in the dugout after he homered, and afterwards he said, "Who were you pointing at?" And he said, "Darvish. He gave me some advice."
Love to see that.
Darvish, hitting coach, immediately. Put that on the 97.3 roundtable for next week.
Future manager, you Darvish. I think it's fine. Look, the Dodgers have better starting pitching than the Padres, and that's fine because the Padres have a better bullpen than the Dodgers. I know it didn't really seem like it last week. And that's the thing I noticed in LA, and that's the thing I noticed in the first game against the Giants. It's pretty obvious that if it's not being said explicitly, it's very well understood that the best at bat you're probably going to get against the Padres might be your first. or you're second if the starter sticks around long enough. But you cannot count on the fact that you're going to score runs against this bullpen. It's just too good. It's too dominant. There's too many guys. So up at Dodger Stadium, I saw them come into their first at-bats going, we got to score early. We got to score early, not to turn the crowd, not to do, just because if we don't score early, we're going to be facing that bullpen going, how the hell do we score against these guys? So it's going to be Darvish. It's going to be Nestor Cortez. It's going to be Nick Pivetta. That's probably about as good as it's going to get. But I also think that everyone needs to be on high alert that the Dodgers want to score early. Maybe Mike Schilt goes back with some sort of like opener thing to try and throw them off with that. I don't know. That would be fun for me. But as of right now, I would say like keep a close eye on anything extra the Dodgers are doing offensively in the first 3 innings of these games.
All right. Well, I think it's going to be lively and looking forward to it. We were downtown yesterday. Thank you to members of the section of Section 1904 who did come to Bottle Rocket yesterday. We kind of threw it together as we were there, and I was making my way back from East County, and John came down from North County, so we threw a podcast up there right before the start of the game. If you missed it, we talked a little bit about Tatis, but thank you to the members of the section that showed up. If you want to become a member, go to section1904.com. Front Row Seat, a weekday newsletter that gets delivered right there to your inbox, exclusive live content, access to the Discord channel, which now has become a part of my routine for sure. I think it's actually the first thing I check when I get up in the morning. Also, other opportunities to hang out with other members. Kind of cool to see people interacting with one another yesterday, people who hadn't met one another. Of course, my wife made a cameo appearance as she was fresh off an airplane from Las Vegas. So good to have her tossed into the mix as well there from Bottle Rocket, and a really, really good spicy chicken sandwich. So thank you to everybody who is subscribing to Section 1904 and everybody who's participating and becoming part of the community. That was fun yesterday for sort of a last-minute random get-together. Appreciate people taking the time to stop by and say hello and hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, that was great. It was fun to put some faces to names and have some good conversations with people. And yeah, really good spicy chicken sandwich. Every time we hang out at Bottle Rocket now, I'm just sad. Like, this place is great. This place is great. Why does it have to go away? Hopefully it doesn't. Fingers crossed. But yeah, that was a really fun time. Thank you for everyone who came out when we like a day before announced like, hey, we're just gonna record something at Bottle Rocket at 11 in the morning. Come if you can. And the handful of people that did were awesome. So at some point we'll have to make a more regular meetup at a more regular time. And I'm sure we'll find ways to put that together. But for what it was yesterday, that was awesome.
It was indeed. All right. So did enjoy that again. Like, it was not a formal thing, so you didn't really miss out on anything if you didn't make it, or if you're like, oh, why didn't you guys call more attention to it? Like I think literally on Wednesday, John and I were texting. We're like, you want to do the show from Bottle Rocket? There's a Padre Day game. Mm-hmm. Maybe some people will be inclined to stop by if they're going to the game or what have you. We just posted it on the Discord. I don't think either one of us even took the social media, although you can find Section 1904 on social media, on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok. So you can find us there. But I don't think we really called to action for a lot of people. We just said, whatever, casually, as John and I pretty late on Wednesday decided we were going to do this. We figured we'd invite anybody who could make it happen. So thank you. Really, really cool to meet people and hang out with people and reconnect with people. In some cases as well. It's always funny when you meet somebody that you've had like an online connection relationship. That you've only known online, and then you meet that person for the first time. Like I have people that I consider friends, and like maybe I've met them one time, and I've known them for 10 years. But I've mostly known them just because you get to know them online, and then you connect with them, and you interact with them, and you get their number, and you text back and forth. Like, I don't know if you have friends like that, but I do. And then it's kind of cool when you have somebody who's like listened to the show for a long time or listened to this podcast since its beginnings. And they're like, oh, yeah, I want to come out. You're like, oh, yeah. Oh, that's you. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's always, welcome to 2025.
I know. Yeah. I've been doing this for a number of years, both Padres Hot Tub and now this. And it's like, every once in a while you meet a listener that you, you've known them as a listener for a while, and they've known you as a host, and then you get to meet them as people, and you're like, oh, this is great. This is fun. This is how we can make friendships out of this.
Indeed it is. All right. So, we'll again recap it coming up on Monday, and the Padres are going to be playing on Monday. That's another important element of this. They're going to have to go on the road to Seattle, correct?
Correct. They're in Seattle on Monday night.
So, sometimes it feels like these Padres-Dodgers series really do take a little bit out of the teams. So is there Is there a little concern that you could carry a hangover, whether it's a good hangover or a bad hangover, into the series on Monday, I suppose. But I guess we'll wait till Monday before we really go down that road. All right. Are we good on Padres?
Yeah, I think we're good on Padres. I'm
I feel
planning
like
on.
you need some time during the day here to work yourself up. I'm sensing that you have a baseball in your hand there, but I'm sensing that you have some apprehension.
This is my my baseball that was thrown to me over the wall by Kristen Orfia years ago.
North,
actually,
who got nominated for Savannah Bananas on the Discord channel.
I did see that. We got a lot of nominations for who should be on the Savannah
Will
Bananas.
Myers was another one.
Yeah, I actually got an email from I specifically posted on Twitter and Blue Sky, like, sorry to Will Myers. We probably should have mentioned Will Myers. Will Myers would be great. Man, people really love Will Myers, and their go-to reason is always, he paid for everyone's drink at that bar that one time. Like, man, like, I always thought it was really funny that anyone you talk to from Kansas City was like, I love Eric Hosmer. He bought everyone drinks at that bar that one time. And it literally was like one time after a playoff game, he went to a bar and he's like, all the drinks are on me. Like, you don't realize how much that just like sticks in people's memory. But yes, Will Myers was a big one, as was Kristen Orfia. Yes, I'm building my energy. I'm the hype train is slowly working its way out of the station this morning. And it's going to crescendo somewhere in the first inning, and hopefully adrenaline will power me through, and then there'll be a raucous post-game show where we get to recap a Padres win.
I'll tell you this. If the Dodgers score 4 in the first inning tonight, I'm not watching another fucking minute of this series. That's it. I'm over it. I won't watch a Padre game until Monday.
You hear that, Darvish? It's all on you.
Yeah. I mean, if it's another like horrible first inning, I'm like, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to watch any of this shit anymore. I'm done. I'm over it. So hopefully that's not the case. I don't think it'll be the case.
Do you think Darvish puts one right in Ohtani's back to lead off the game? Just send a message.
Is Ohtani going to play?
I think I saw he is. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Didn't he have to come out of a game the other day?
He did. But I read something this morning. I think it was on MLB.com. I think it was in Front Row Seat that said that Ohtani was back. There was someone else who was back too, but Ohtani had missed less time. Oh, it was some relief pitcher. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I believe I saw Ohtani's back for this series.
Speaking of gambling, did you read the story in the Union Tribune from Annie Heilbrunn about the Padres and social media and gambling and all this sort of stuff? Did you read this story? And I will say, it brings it home. It's a local story. But, the story's been written, I want to say, a handful of times about how athletes now are being abused online by random people who scream all sorts of stuff at them and, say, we hope you die and, you're a piece of shit and all this sort of stuff. And a lot of it is tied into gambling. There is a detail in the story that I think is worth highlighting, which is, now in some of these sports venues across the country, I think the case, the example that was pointed out in Annie's story in the Union Tribune today was now in Arizona. Not only can you can you load up on cocktails and get drunk, but there's also a sports book at the Diamondbacks home field, whatever it's called, Bank One, Chase, I don't remember. Who cares?
Okay.
So now you're adding in another layer of angst potentially, in that you're going to get people, to get boozed up, make a bunch of bets, and then if the bets don't go their way, there's this opportunity to create this weird mix of somebody being very angry and potentially verbally abusive towards one of the players out there on the field. Okay.
How is this different than European soccer? I know you can bet at the stadium.
Yeah, I don't know that you can drink in a lot of these places, but
I think that's the big difference.
Yeah, and again, it's a local story. So she talked to some people locally, and Fernando's quoted and others are quoted. So everybody's got again, I've read a handful of stories that are exactly like this. It's just that this is the first one that's been written here locally. I don't know if anything stood out to you, John. I will just say this. I understand that, in a perfect world, athletes do not have to deal with online abuse of any kind. Any kind. Whether it's racism, whether it's from opposing fans, whether it's related to gambling. In a perfect world, you do not have to deal with that.
Yeah.
But this is not a perfect world. And,
obviously.
This is a product of social media. B, it's a product of online culture. It's also a product to a degree of sports gambling. I don't know that there's anything really to single out here other than this is now, unfortunately, part of what you have to deal with if you are a public figure. And I don't think there's any way to cure any of this. I don't think society's magically going to get better. I just think that you have a choice to make if you're a public figure about how much of your world you want to be exposed to. And if you want to expose yourself to this sort of stuff, unfortunately, this is part of what comes with the territory. And I don't really see a way around it, as defeated as that might sound, other than to say, like, it is a choice that you make as an athlete to engage or to observe what it is and how it is that people are acting online.
I think the cure for it, and I think I've said this before, is I think prop betting should just be illegal. Like, I think you can bet on games.
Oh man, Xander Bogaerts would be so disappointed.
I know he can have his parlays. He says he knows what parlays are. He bets on parlays. But I think they need to get rid of the prop betting because, like I said, you can be a Hall of Fame player if you are successful at hitting a baseball for a hit, not into someone's glove, 30% of the time. And that doesn't mean that every 10 at bats you're going to get 3 hits. Sometimes you get hot, sometimes you get cold. And because of these prop bets, they get heckled by people who are like, you didn't get your hits on the right night for me. You didn't get your hits on the right game for me. I don't care that you're an MVP candidate. I needed 3 hits from you last night and you only got 2. And like that is absurd. That is when we've taken all ideas of this is a season long thing. Numbers, they average out over time, and you respect the performance over the entire season, as opposed to this at bat is the only thing that matters. And so I think prop betting should be made illegal. The interesting part, I know you might highlight the Xander Bogaerts part of Annie's article. I thought the interesting part was Jackson Merrill. The Xander part was interesting too, but Jackson Merrill gave me a perspective that I didn't know, which was, he was like, it's not just the people who come after you when you don't do something successful and they lose money. He's like, it's also the people who come after you when you do something successful and you lose them money. He's like, I might, rob a home run.
Right.
And I'm feeling real great. And I get back to my phone and there's all these DMs from people going, you lost me money by robbing that home run. And that part's interesting because then he was like, you just can't win. No matter if you are successful or not on the baseball field, someone is going to be in your DMs yelling at you about it, about how you lost them money. And that's, look, you can, these guys probably shouldn't be on social media. They probably shouldn't have open DMs, but also they want to be on social media and they want to have open DMs. They just don't want this type of stuff in their inbox. And I agree with them. They shouldn't have it. But the only way to get rid of it, I think, is to get rid of prop betting, which I know is a thing that other people have talked about. And I know that there's some sort of movement to try and make it illegal. And I am all for that.
Yeah, I will not hold my breath waiting for that to happen. Just because these gambling companies are so tied in now. Like I said, I mean, there's sports books at the ballparks, at the facilities, in the arenas. Yeah. So, like, I don't know. They're spending so much money here that, they've just created such a lobby for this that I just don't, unless they self-regulate because they're worried about something bigger. And I just don't know that that's probably not a tone that's going to get set by where we are currently.
The NFL owns part of ESPN, who owns ESPN Bet. ESPN's about to buy MLB.TV and probably put ads on it with like betting lines and go bet it, ESPN Bet. Like, we had people on the Discord yesterday going like, is ESPN just going to rob people to have them watch baseball? And I was in the back of my head going, no, they're not going to make Padre fans pay $500 to watch the game. But you're going to watch the game with like live ESPN bet odds on the bottom, and that's how they're going to make their money. So it's all just too intertwined.
See, and this is why we're trying to go ad free here, everybody, because in sports media, you almost, if you're going to rely on advertising, you almost have to rely on sports gambling sites, whether it's daily fantasy sports, which are all over all the local radio stations, Or, I mean, that's part of the irony here is like there is daily fantasy sports sites literally on the Padre flagship station, right? Like literally some of the stuff is sponsored by DraftKings when you're watching some of the games on Padres.tv. So like, I don't know how you're going to get around it. I will say, and again, everything is relative and yes, like it feels problematic. Social media feels problematic across the board, but some of these like you bring up Jackson Merrill, like how many people follow Jackson Merrill even on Instagram, and like compared to European soccer players, like, it could be a lot worse. So,
yeah.
But it is a choice, it is a choice to be here. And I understand you want to promote your brand and all that sort of stuff, but maybe it's okay too, to have a private account and let everybody in your ecosystem, your wives, your girlfriends, your parents, your in-laws. I had an online situation where my mother-in-law ended up on some comment section on the Union Tribune arguing with people. And I was like, whoa, hey, time out. We cannot, this is not going anywhere. This is a terrible idea. Yeah. Terrible idea. I love you to death. I appreciate that you're defending me. Bad idea. This is not, we're putting an end to this right now. And, from there on out, that's why forever, I never talked about Leah as a person. I referred to her as the female roommate for a long time. I didn't post pictures of her on Instagram. That's me. I'm a nobody. I'm like a, C-level radio host. So, and these guys have to live in that world. But again, it's all relative. I can't even imagine what it's like being like an 18-year-old like Lamine Yamal, who's got 40 million followers on Instagram. And what happens if he starts checking his direct messages? So, again, I know, this sort of stuff, it shouldn't happen. I'm not trying to say that, but it does. And I think, you just have to, it is now part of your job that you used to have to deal with Harry the heckler out there or that guy who would scream at Charles Barkley and, show up with pizzas.
Yeah.
You used to have to deal with that. And now it's a much more vicious circle, but it is part of what you unfortunately have to deal with.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And again, I just think it's part of the job. All right, SDFC, Portland Timbers, 7:30, win and you're in. Let's learn a little bit about the Portland Timbers, and let's say hello to Adam Susman. All right, well, you can find him on the Timbers Review. He's a Timbers broadcaster and reporter, and online at Adam_Susman on Twitter, SUSMAN. Adam, thanks for joining Section 1904. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Big game for the Timbers. Back-to-back weeks, we're playing the best two teams in Major League Soccer. We get Cincinnati and Evander's return last weekend, and now first ever matchup with San Diego.
Well, we have about 200 Timbers fans that are making the trip to San Diego. I checked with the club to find out what the away section was going to look like, and I don't do that every week, but I did that because I know that the Timbers Army, I know that the Portland Timbers get a ton of wonderful support. I wonder if before we get into some of the details of what's upcoming this weekend and the stakes and everything that comes with 2025, can you talk to us just a little bit about the culture? I mentioned the John earlier. I went to a Timbers game in 2016, and it's the first time that I was really, really impressed and thought, wow, MLS has taken a foothold in a city. There were flags everywhere. There were people that were wearing shirts around town, jerseys. Like, it was a real presence. It was every bit, like the Blazers were in Portland. And I was like, it is a real thing here in Portland. And it made me want MLS to come to San Diego even more. Could you talk to us just a little bit about this support that everybody associates with the Timbers?
The best way I can put it is Portland is not the biggest club in Major League Soccer, but the Portland Timbers mean more to their city than any other city in MLS. They have been sort of a staple of sports in the Pacific Northwest, and even in the MLS era from 2014 to 2021, only the two teams in the Pacific Northwest represented the Western Conference in MLS Cup. Providence Park is sort of like the cathedral of soccer in North America, maybe above the border, I should say. Having a city that is smack dab in the middle of downtown, that has been around since the 1920s, that has hosted all the historic moments of the Portland Timbers. We've been around for 50 years. You go all the way back to 1975. They played in the first ever soccer bowl, which was actually in California. And like my dad has programs of the team. I grew up watching, Diego Valeri and Diego Chara, and having somebody like Chara is the best spokesman and icon for the club possible. He was the first ever DP signing in 2011, and now at 39 years old, he's still playing for the team. That's like if Anders Dreyer was playing for the side in 2039. Like, do you expect him to stick around that long? You would hope so with this sort of production. But Portland is absolutely Soccer City USA for a reason. You see it with our NWSL team as well with the Thorns. And in a more simplistic sense, I always tell people Portland is the biggest city in America that only has one of the professional 4 sports teams, of course, being NHL, NBA, MLB, and NFL. So having that size of a population and only having soccer and basketball, and the Blazers haven't been too hot lately, really feeds into just the importance of the Timbers.
Yeah, and I see a lot of similarities to us in San Diego, especially in a post-Chargers San Diego, where we have the Padres, and the Padres are absolutely adored and beloved and the most popular ticket. But we're looking at Padres-Dodgers this weekend, Saturday night, which, you think to yourself, okay, that's got to be 42,000 plus people. And we're going to get 28,000 people at Snapdragon Stadium. So this is going to be like a pretty massive night of sports. And I do think that there's some relatability between San Diego. It's sort of in the shadows of a much bigger city like Los Angeles. Portland, I don't know if it's this way, Adam, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but in sort of the shadows of Seattle, which has NFL, right? Even though it lost its NBA team. And I always thought like there was something to learn about how to embrace Major League Soccer that we see in Portland. Can you, I know this isn't a history lesson and you're not a historian, but like how did the Pacific Northwest start this love affair with this sport? I was just reading a book last night about Spain, and people heard the story about, in Mexico, like how settlers settled up there and like they started the sport. Like this was a sleeping giant between Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, Cascadia. How did this all begin? Like, what are the roots of the love affair with the sport of soccer in the Pacific Northwest?
Well, I think Portland has been massively helped by having Seattle and Vancouver start within a year of each other. They all started around 1974, 1975. They all made the step up together through their different leagues. And when soccer wasn't in a great place in the Pacific Northwest is when MLS formed, but those three hadn't joined yet. And then Seattle stepped up to the plate first in MLS in, I believe, 2009 or 10. And then Vancouver and Portland came in together in 2011. Even through all these different leagues, one cup has prevailed. It's called the Cascadia Cup, where the regular season matchups between Portland, Vancouver, and Seattle, whoever has the most points between those games gets to hoist a trophy at the end of the year. Portland won that last year, and Phil Neville, the Timbers head coach, has consistently said, you can lose every game throughout the season, but if you beat Portland and you beat Vancouver, which the Timbers have struggled to do recently, especially against Vancouver, that way the Timbers fans can sort of have bragging rights against the others in the Northwest. We're sort of a little bit of a pocket away from the rest of the country consistently. Like you guys will see the travel stats in MLS or for the University of Oregon or Washington, we're going further than anybody else. So having that little pocket to ourselves is very special. And I think hatred in sports is just as important as love is. And you guys having that LAFC, LA Galaxy, and maybe to a lesser extent, San Jose start to form in MLS is sort of what the Timbers have had and would have needed to have for a long time with Seattle. I am 26 years old, and the last time the Timbers lost to the Seattle Sounders up north at Lumen Field, I was in high school. So the Timbers have sort of created that as their home away from home. And other than that, probably to the joy of a lot of your San Diego listeners, the Timbers are not a very good road team since they last made MLS Cup in 2021. But at the same time, this season, after stockpiling young talent, they've had to really turn over the roster since they made MLS Cup in 2021. They've stockpiled a young talent for the last 2 or 3 years, and now it feels like they're finally going for it. This may be new to some San Diego fans because obviously it's your first year in MLS, but maybe similar to baseball, you just got to get in the dance and then you can tango. Like, it really doesn't matter what seed you are. Last year in the Eastern Conference, the 1, 2, and the 3 seed was Miami, Cincinnati, and Columbus. They looked invincible. They were like the Avengers, and all 3 of those teams lost in the first round. So the Timber fans are saying, right now they're 6th. Are they going to get in the wild card? Are they going to get a first-round playoff series? If you get in and your players are firing at the right time, you can make a run to MLS Cup just like the New York Red Bulls did last year.
You mentioned the Thorns earlier, and I don't mean to divert us too much, but this is a question that I have that I'm very interested in, because I noticed that a lot of MLS teams are owned by the same group who own like an NWSL team in the same city. And that's what Portland was set up as for the last 15 years until I think a year ago. When the Thorns
about 2 years ago they were
2
sold.
years ago, the Thorns were sold off to a new group that I believe is not associated with the Timbers. In San Diego, we have the Wave and San Diego FC, which are owned by completely separate groups. And I've often wondered if that's a good thing or a bad thing or just nothing. So having seen what that was, the relationship between those two teams, the relationship between those fans, the relationship between the city and those two teams, has that changed at all with the change in ownership in the Thorns?
I think it has changed a little bit. The Timbers and Thorns were quite literally like brother-sister club. They had the same ownership. They played in the same stadium, and they still do play in the same stadium. The problem is the Timbers got a little bit of preferential treatment. And now with the Thorns having individual ownership, they're becoming, a premier NWSL side in the terms that they're finally getting their own training facility, something that they've needed for a little bit now because they were just training at Providence Park. And also the Thorns, the figures that they've had walk through that organization, currently still having Sophia, I believe her last name is Wilson now, formerly Sophia Smith. She's one of the best women's players in the world, and that's what separates the NWSL from MLS. If you are one of the best women's players in the world, you're either playing in England, Spain, or NWSL, and the Thorns having Christine Sinclair, the all-time international goal scorer, has been a very big deal for this city. She played at University of Portland and then was with the NWSL team, the Portland Thorns, from the start. There's pros and cons to your question, absolutely. They used to do a charity game together every year. They raised serious funds for Ukraine. They raised serious funds for conservation efforts and environmentally in Portland here a couple of years ago. And while if you're still a Timbers fan, you're a Thorns fan. If you're a Thorns fan, you're still a Timbers fan. There's not that same type of connectivity that there used to be.
And speaking of supporter culture, again, you mentioned it. It's season number 1. I think a lot of people who have never been fans of soccer are learning a lot about supporter culture. Timbers Army, if anybody's ever been there, I don't know how many of our fans will make the trip up there to Providence Park on Decision Day on October 18th. But having been there before, it's really, really impressive. And it's not just a game day thing. Adam, I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit just about supporter culture. And it's a unique place. Portland's a unique place. It's a unique supporters group, and it's a supporters group that seemingly carries a little bit of weight with it, not just in terms of its ability to be loud and insulting and intimidating during a match. But could you tell us a little bit about Timbers Army and the role that it plays, not just in soccer, but in the city of Portland as well?
Yeah, the Timbers Army is massively important. They have a big say in what goes on as well, because they are serenading the players at all times. And at the same time, just if you want a greater understanding of what Timbers Army is, just look up the tifo that they made for the 50th anniversary game against Minnesota a few weeks ago. It's on my social media as well. It was the biggest painted tifo in MLS history. It went from 180 degrees across the stadium, painting the legends of the club, and it was incredibly special. They are somebody that has been around since 2011. Portland, as we know, is a little bit eclectic, and soccer has certainly fallen into that category. Timbers Army is general admission, so people for a 7:30 kickoff on a normal Saturday night will start lining up at 3 or 4 p.m. to try to get that front row seat, and they give away wristbands. It's almost like in college where your college basketball team has a big game coming up and you're camping out ahead of time. So they all have the chance for different players. What they're in the process of right now is trying to figure out how to sing the new players' names, put that into a chant. And it's a very European type culture of following your team, where soccer at times almost is like a religion, where it's something that brings together the community. And Portland being in the heartbeat of downtown Portland really helps that as well. And it just sort of brings everybody together. And in other cities, you see people wearing the kits and the jerseys of a dozen different teams of Chelsea, Manchester United, and Arsenal. You don't really get that in Portland. It's everybody wearing Timbers gear. It's everybody wearing Thorns gear, and that's about it. And if you are a San Diego fan coming to Providence Park, they will obviously welcome you with open arms. but do not wear any San Diego gear within Timbers Army. You can go to a different seat that you have paid, but people have worn a messy kit in there at times, have been heckled to the point of having to exit. So be sure you're wearing green and gold or something neutral when you go into Timbers Army.
But just to follow up real quick about how influential Timbers Army has been, and I don't want to turn this into political debate, but like they have been influential in terms of not just trying to be supportive and really rattle the visiting team, but like in terms of how the club operates. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Adam. Like that's how important Timbers Army has been. When they felt like things weren't going right, they have made their voices quite clear that they think that there were some changes that needed to be made over the years of their existence, correct?
Yeah, they've banded together, and their official statement certainly holds some agency. I won't get into all the details there on certain examples, but talking to people behind the club and knowing the head of communications and knowing the Timbers owner, they definitely listen. They definitely see what's going on, and Timbers Army likes to separate themselves at the same time, saying, hey, we're not making all the same decisions as the club. When Phil Neville was initially hired, they were not happy with it. It took some getting used to over that, and they put out a statement that said, hey, we didn't agree with this. But I think when Giovanni Savarese, the last coach, was fired, they were on board with that one as well after Gio lost 5-0 at Houston Dynamo. And then Phil Neville came in, and they weren't initially happy with that. And the same thing goes with the Thorns, too, where there was a lot of controversy with the Portland Thorns, which in an extent led to Merritt Poulsen, the Timbers, and at that time, Thorns owner selling the team. So the fan bases have a lot of power here. And but at the same time, Timbers Army sells out all the time. So, yeah, they have a lot of power, but they're always going to support the team still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was doing research ahead of this interview and probably bumped into a lot of the same stuff Darren did, and I was completely blown away by specifically the thing a few years back where they flew the flag with the Iron Front logo on it, and MLS basically banned it and was like, you're not allowed to do that anymore. And they banned it together, and they stood up to MLS. Like, that wasn't the Timbers standing up to Major League Soccer. It was Timbers Army standing up for Major League Soccer, and they won. And that was incredibly impressive for me just to read it and be like, holy crap, like a supporters group looked the league in the face and was like, we are right, and eventually won that. And so that's our perspective of Timbers Army from outside. I'm always very curious because I'm first-year MLS fan, and all I've really watched is San Diego FC games. A couple of other MLS games. The MLS 360 show is occasionally on. I'm glancing at it. But my look at the league is through the tiny little keyhole of usually like SDFC soccer. So I love to ask this question to people that watch other teams and watch the rest of MLS. What is your take on not just San Diego FC, the team, the coaching, everything? We all know it's impressive. They're at the top of the table and all that. What's your impression of San Diego as a community that is supporting this team? Because there's been some negative stories out there, and I've been concerned that maybe it's going to give them a bad reputation. And I hope that's not true. I hope everyone sees that when they turn on the game, there's thousands of people there with flags cheering and chanting for the players, and that should be what their reputation is.
Look, across MLS and to a larger extent, you can find whatever narrative you're looking for. If you want to prove that San Diego has toxic fans, they get into fight with LAFC fans, you can find those videos. If you want to find San Diego FC being some of the best supporters in MLS, you can find those videos as well.
Yeah.
At the same time, guys, winning cures all. You've been in sports radio for 20 years. I don't have to tell you that. If San Diego is winning, people are going to come to the games. And I have been, as like a neutral supporter of a lot of teams across MLS, watching San Diego is amongst the most attractive style of soccer in Major League Soccer. Of their 27 games, they've had more of the ball in 26 of them. And individuals, while it is a team sport with 11 on the field, DPs win you games. If you have DPs that are not firing, it's incredibly hard to make any noise in the postseason or even in the regular season. And beyond just Dreyer, I think what maybe a casual MLS fan doesn't realize is Jeppe Verskov. I was talking to a Timbers assistant coach yesterday and a former Timbers captain in Liam Ridgewell who hoisted MLS Cup in 2015. He called him the best number 6 in the league. And I asked why. He said he's never out of position. He leads Major League Soccer in passing, and he is somebody that is incredibly hard for star players in the middle of the field to get past. In general, like, Scandinavian players just simply work in MLS. They always do. I don't want to lump in San Diego, all of them, too much, but you look at your best players this year, in McVeigh, Dreyer, and Verskov, and Ingvartsen as well, they just seem to always work. And the Timbers are hoping to take a page out of your book in recruitment. They brought in Christopher Velde, a recent DP out of the Greek league, but he's Norwegian, so they're hoping to have that type of play too. And before we clicked record, guys, I mentioned how I started following San Diego pretty early on in the process because I broadcasted 2 of their games in preseason against the Timbers and against NYCFC. And people would ask me when I got back, so what do you think? How are they going to do? And I said, well, they're going to score a lot of goals, but they're going to give away a lot of goals. And half of that has been true, but defensively, it's been very impressive because teams, I've seen this countless times in MLS and across global soccer. Teams that just get promoted to the Premier League that insist on playing out from the back, new expansion clubs in MLS that insist on they're not going to lump it long, they're just going to play attractive soccer. And Mikey Veras, I was skeptical because he was never a head coach before in MLS. His highest level of experience was as an assistant coach and in USL with Sacramento. But he comes in, Tyler Heaps, the sporting director, does a great job getting the right personnel, and they're able to play this attractive style of playing out from the back. And relating to Saturday's game, in a weird way, I'm not saying the Timbers are any sort of favorite, but they do better against the teams that want to have the ball because the Timbers really struggle to break down a low block like they will next week against Minnesota. And against San Diego, the Timbers are a transition side, so hopefully they can hit San Diego on the counterattack.
By the way, everything you said has been said here locally as well, right? People had these questions about Mikey. We knew that he came from academies in Sacramento and Dallas, spending time with the under-20s and the U.S. youth national teams. But how's he going to do when he has to coach Chucky Lozano, right? How's he going to do when he has to coach adults and superstars and such? And Tyler Heaps flat out told us, we're going to play a lot of high-scoring games, which to me meant we're looking at a lot of 4-3s, 3-2s, things like that. And you know, them being able to be as good as they have been preventing goals has been, I think, mostly the reason for their success. Adam, you talked a little bit, transfer window just closed. SDFC added, one senior player in Corey Baird and more under-20s into the mix, who we may or may not see upcoming this weekend. Tell us a little bit about the additions for Portland. It sounds like 3 players being brought in, and we should expect to see them all coming up on Saturday.
Timbers entered MLS in 2011, and this is their most active summer transfer window ever. Bringing in 3 players that are all expecting to be starters is rather unprecedented. MLS teams usually do their business in preseason and for a reason. You know, you get a training camp to get used to it, and then you have an entirety of an MLS season where you have a bunch of leeway. For the Timbers, with a 10-win, 9-loss, and 7-draw record, there is no adaptation period for these 3 players, and let's lay them out. First off is DP Christopher Velde, who is sort of a building block for the future. Phil Neville said the Timbers are dying out for somebody to come in and be the man. He wants to be that, and hopefully he can be. Elsewhere, the 2 other additions are first-team quality, but both of them are probably only short-term Timbers. One of them is Matias Rojas of River Plate, one of the biggest clubs in South America and frankly the world. He played with Inter Miami last year, had really good numbers in a short amount of time. I think 9 goals and 3 assists in 20 games played from midfield. And the final one is Felipe Carballo, who was a starting midfielder for the New York Red Bulls when they went on to all the way go to MLS Cup, losing to the LA Galaxy. He comes on loan from Brazilian giant Grêmio. So those 2 latter players that I mentioned are only under contract until the end of 2025. So it's 2 hired guns. I expect Carballo to not just play, but probably start against San Diego in midfield next to David Ashala, who has been our best player over the last 2 years. Mati Rojas is a little bit of a different story. He hasn't started and played more than an hour in a game since MLS playoffs in 2024. So he is not up to match fitness like the rest of a San Diego or a Portland would. But in terms of Velde and Carballo, both expected to play an hour plus against San Diego, presuming their visas are cleared. And our GM spoke yesterday saying that's 99% sure they should each be playing.
I have a very quick follow-up. Did you say that the head coach of the Timbers said that they needed someone who wanted to be the man?
They said this club is dying out for somebody to come in and be the man.
Did that not piss off all the other players on the roster?
I mean, if you know the personalities of the players, probably not. So they had Evander last year who was third in MVP voting. They transferred him to Cincinnati, and that was quite the fiery return last weekend. And they brought in David DaCosta, who is a good player, hasn't quite hit the Evander heights by any means. He's got 4 goals and 8 assists, dealing with some minor injuries here and there. But he is more of a supplementary player. He is not the center of the universe like a Dreyer or a Lozano would. So if they can have somebody come in, and this isn't just on the pitch, like Diego Chara is the epitome of a professional and an icon of the Portland Timbers, but he's not somebody that is going to be actively going out and trying to grab the headlines. Velda is a little bit of a different story. He is like, could be Mr. Portland. He's got tattoos all over his body. He's witty in the press conferences, speaks perfect English and Spanish. His nickname is Veldinho. Like, we just cannot wait to see him and hoping that he can produce on and off the pitch.
Yeah, this is good info for the broadcast tomorrow. I just jotted that down, Veldinho. That's definitely going to be on this broadcast tomorrow. Can't wait to spring that one on Warren Barton. And speaking of, just to follow up also, one thing I noticed when I was preparing for this match is this has to be amongst the most international rosters anywhere in Major League Soccer.
Yeah.
Is that a strategy? I mean, is that just sort of like, hey, availability, these are the guys that are available to us? But like, I mean, this is, when you look at the flags for the teams that represent this squad, like, it is really a globally built roster.
Least amount of American minutes of all 30 teams in Major League Soccer. The only American minutes we really have got on this squad is from first-round draft pick Ian Smith, and nobody really expected that to start the season. The Timbers have had a very, very heavy South American influence since 2018, 2019, because their 2 greatest players of all time, Diego Valeri, who was 2017 League MVP, came from Argentina, and Diego Chara, the club's first ever DP signing and still going strong 15 years later, is from Colombia. And young players see that. The Timbers use that as sales pitches, saying, hey, look at the success we've had with these players. So in steps Juan Mosquera, Jim Raforia, 2 of our starting fullbacks, each from Colombia. Each are going to be vying to be in the World Cup Colombia squad next summer as well. Elsewhere in the squad, David Ashala is one of the best young midfielders in Major League Soccer. Phil Neville has gone on pace saying that he's the best midfielder in the Western Conference at times. He's from Argentina. The entire attacking line is international as well. Anthony, a young star out of Brazil. He played briefly in Portugal, but now he's back here as well. It makes my job from a content perspective a little bit harder at times because a lot of them don't speak English, but it is cool to see sort of a Hispanic bubble. And if you ask a Timbers player, like Omir Fernandez is sort of a rotation option for the Timbers. They brought him from Colorado. And I asked him, when you were at Colorado, how much of your day-to-day was in Spanish versus now? He said at Colorado there was one other player on the roster that spoke Spanish, and now with the Timbers, his entire day-to-day is in Spanish. So it's certainly a different vibe, and it fluctuates, it comes and goes, but it's been nice to see all 3 of the new signings come in. Valdez speaks perfect English, Carbajo and Mati Rojas, one from Uruguay, one from Paraguay. Both, of course, speak their native tongue better than English, but each of them spoke English in their introductory press conference.
I have one final question. Just because you mentioned it, and I've been waiting for somebody to provide this answer. Most websites around the world, I won't even get into second assists. We'll save that for October 17th, if you were kind enough to join us again. But the wins, the losses, and the draws. Why does MLS do it different than every other league in the world where they go wins, losses, draws? Every other league does wins, draws, losses. Why,
when I put it down on print or I'm making like a video about it, I always put the W, L, and D next to it because you're completely right. Like the Premier League, FBref, Who Scored always do wins, draws, losses. But I've been so MLS-atized over the last couple of years that I have now gone wins, losses, draws. It's almost like hockey where they do the wins, losses, overtime losses. I think you're probably right. I think the wins, draws, losses is probably the better way to go. But we got bigger demons to fight here than picking that battle overall. It is strange, and the way I circumvent it is always saying, I never just say, the Timbers are 10, 9, and 7. I'll say the Timbers have 10 wins, 9 losses, and 7 draws. And I put it down the same way on paper or on screen because it can certainly be confusing.
It can be. I know. Earlier this year, I was like, our graphics board has it wrong. It's up there on the board. It's wrong. And like, no, like, I was wrong. Just because MLS, like I said, we'll save the second assist stuff for a different conversation. Adam, this has been very informative. Thank you very much for doing it. Are you making the trip?
I am not, unfortunately. Okay. If the Timbers play San Diego in the playoffs, I will be there because I travel for all the playoff matchups. And there's a chance that happens. If San Diego is the 1 or the 2 and the Timbers are the 7 or the 8, I could see you guys soon.
All right. Thank you for doing this again on Twitter, Adam_Susman. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Adam Susman, the Timbers Review on Patreon. Are you a subscriber to any accounts on Patreon? I am a couple of different accounts.
I'm not, but for a very specific technical reason, which is I started Padres Hot Tubs Patreon, and then when I left, to transfer it to Craig Elston, I had to give him my account, which is tied to my email address. And I have thought about literally starting a new email address so that I can start a new Patreon account that's not tied to whatever. It's complicated. No, right now I am not subscribing to anyone on Patreon.
You do have a new email account.
That's true. The Section 1904 account. I could use that. Yeah, maybe I should.
John has been sitting here since we said goodbye to Adam going, he's 26. That guy's 26 years old. Yeah. Bright future. It's pretty good.
Sometimes you get those moments where you realize, like, you know, you've been watching your whole career, you're watching sports, and you're like, why won't the veteran guy just help out the rookie to learn and everything? And then a 26-year-old stumbles into this podcast, and I'm like, I got to get better at this. I got to get better at this before Darren replaces me tomorrow. Jesus.
I know. I had the same thought that I did yesterday. I was like, I wonder if he's viewing this as, hanging out with a couple of olds. Or if it's like, yeah, these cool old guys. I don't know. This is my midlife crisis, trying to figure out what to do with these friggin' gray hairs. Anyhow, it should be fun. And again, like I do think that the whole Portland experience, like how soccer took such a foothold in that part, like there has to be a backstory. They go back to 1970s to the 70s when, that's why like this people try to manufacture the whole LA thing, El Tráfico, right? Galaxy and LAFC. Like This is the best. The Seattle Sounders versus Portland Timbers is the absolute best rivalry that Major League Soccer has because it's the only one that actually has history. And it goes back as old as I am. And, just between the two cities, the relationship between the sports, between basketball, again, there's some things I think that we in San Diego have in common. I don't know that everybody's going to agree with that because, people in San Diego sort of see themselves up against San Francisco and up against Los Angeles. And I'm always like, I've always appreciated people in Portland. They love being from Portland because it's not Seattle, if that makes sense. And I know there's a lot of that here in San Diego, but sometimes I think we maybe get caught up trying to compare ourselves to some of these cities that have NFL and NBA. It's like, no, like we've got one of the traditionals and one of the up and coming here. Yeah. And then I think that's pretty solid. So anyhow, just my thoughts.
Yeah. And I love Portland, man. Like I was talking to my wife last night, trying to talk her into going to the game in Portland that SDFC is going to play at the end of the season in October. I love that city. It's a great city. And yeah, you said this morning that you felt like San Diego was kind of more alike with Portland than it is with Los Angeles. And that got me thinking. And, I think I agree with you. I think I agree that San Diego and Portland are two similarly sized cities with a kind of similar mentality of how they sometimes feel about the cities around them.
Yeah, again, and it's intended to be a compliment towards Portland, not an insult. Like, hey, why don't we give it up trying to be? It's not that at all.
Yeah.
Like, I just see a version of ourselves that I really like, and I do appreciate that. Anyhow, it's not for everybody. I certainly understand that. Thank you again to Adam. John, we do have an update, John, on this who we described on this podcast as a prepubescent teenager who ran onto the field at Petco Park the other night. Apparently, this is he has a name, and he has appeared on social media. And as I say that, some of you might be thinking, oh, is he appearing on social media to apologize for his behavior running around the field at Petco Park? And the answer is absolutely not. It's the complete opposite of this. And I don't know what to make of this. I'm going to defer to you as a parent and as somebody who lives in Carlsbad. So those of you can't see this, but you can hear this. This is San Diego-ville on Instagram. And here is this kid who was taken off the field at Petco Park by security, tackled. Some of you thought, well, that's a little bit rough. But here he is recapping his experience as a pitch invader.
Hi guys, my name is Frankie Swartz, and I was the Padre fan who ran on the field last night in our win over the San Francisco Giants. I want to support Carlsbad kickboxing, my gym, and I just want to say, live your life, chase your dreams, take stupid bets. Thank you, Tatis, for winking at me. I saw you. I know you didn't want to get in trouble. Yeah, it was definitely worth it and fun.
All right. Well, that was Frankie Schwartz, who wants to shout out Carlsbad Kickboxing, who doesn't have any regrets whatsoever, who thinks, in fact, he should be an inspiration to others to go live your life and take stupid bets. John?
Disagree. Hard disagree, child. Hard disagree. I mean, you should live your life and you should occasionally take bets and all that stuff. What you shouldn't do is run onto the field of a Major League Baseball game and then be proud of it later. Like, look, Mark Grant, when this was going on the TV broadcast, all but called this child an asshole. And I feel like the kid is living up to Mark Grant's criticisms here of like, it's just the dumbest, most selfish thing you can do. There's 40,000 people there, and you think it's your job to jump onto the field, disturb play, freak out the players, set off security so that 40,000 people could look at you, make an ass of yourself? Like, no. And to make this now you're an influencer for this kickboxing gym that probably his parents own or they have a friend who owns, who's like, oh, I'm going to get some PR for my gym out of this stupid little asshole kid who decided that the whole Padres game was about him. The whole night was about him. Everyone spent all that money and all on parking and tickets and concessions and everything to watch this kid run a little lap around Fernando Tatis Jr.
Who winked at him. He winked at him.
I guarantee you he didn't wink at the damn kid. The kid is making stuff up in his head. He has to. There's no, I'm sorry. This infuriates me as a parent because all you're doing is not only encouraging your child to continue to act like a narcissist for the rest of their life, you're encouraging other children and saying, this is the way we should all act. We should all be narcissists. And then once we get that attention in some sort of bigger fashion, we should use that to help support the local kickboxing gym. No, don't be a narcissist. Don't be an asshole. It's not about you.
And I did mention this was on the San Diego-ville account, but they found it on the Carlsbad Kickboxing account. So the Carlsbad Kickboxing account did post this video first. It was then taken, screen grabbed, and put up on San Diego-ville, just to give you the chronology there. Just in case anybody's like, well, does Carlsbad Kickboxing have anything to do? Yes. Yes, they did. Now, I don't know what the connection here is. The kid, do his parents own this? Do his parents go there? Did they say, hey, listen, that's that kid. Let's put him on social media? Like, none of this feels like a good idea to me.
No.
None of this at all. Where do you live again? What city do you live in again?
Right on the edge of San Marcos, Darren.
Okay. You don't live in Carlsbad?
I do live in Carlsbad.
Your daughter's going to be dating people like this. Your daughter's going to be dating these kind of kids before too long. How do you feel
You
about
act like
that?
these kids aren't all over the place.
They're
the
not
problem
down
is
here.
social media.
Those kids, they get their ass whooped in South Bay. I can promise you that.
Yeah, maybe this kid needs to take less kickboxing lessons because maybe he does need to get his ass whooped by somebody and realize that it's not all about him.
I'm uncomfortable talking about it. Not to the point where we're not going to talk about it, but I do have at least someone where I was like, maybe we shouldn't. But we did. It's just,
we gave him even more PR. Now more people know about this kid. He's going to feel even better about.
I weep for it. I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, how do his parents think that this is a good idea?
Maybe they don't. Maybe he just went to his kickboxing class and his kickboxing teacher was like, hey, I think you did a great thing and we should turn this into PR for my kickboxing gym. Maybe the parents are sitting on the side going like, no, don't do that. I don't know. I'm not going to judge his parents, but I don't know. You
don't think the series of events at least calls into question the judgment of his parents?
They should at least be paying attention. If you are listening to this and you are a parent, please do whatever you can to make sure that your child does not jump onto the field of play at a professional sporting event or really any sporting event in which they're not participating in, and let them know that it's not about them. There's a lot of people there. They're there to watch Fernando Tatis Jr. play baseball, not to potentially wink at a child while he runs away from security.
Well, hey, listen. At least he didn't throw a green dildo on a basketball court, I guess.
Oh, one of those guys got arrested, thankfully. Yeah.
I mean, so this is a crime, right? Like, I mean, it is still a crime to do what it is that Frankie Schwartz did, right?
I like that you wrote down his name. I thought about it and then I didn't because I was like, whatever, I don't need to get this kid's name right. Is it a crime? I think so. I think it's up to the Padres to decide whether or not they want to press charges, but like, also, he's a kid, so like, it's one of those, what's he going to get, a slap on the wrist? Like, I don't think he's going to end up in juvenile detention for this. My guess is the Carlsbad kickboxing company is gonna pay his fine, whatever his fine's going to be, and they're going to try and equal it out with PR via his Instagram videos.
They're celebrating it. He's wearing a Carlsbad kickboxing shirt. He's like, yo, check out the Carlsbad.
He's there too. You can see behind him, like all their gear. Like it's
hey, you gotta chase your dreams, John.
I'm glad I'm not wearing a Carlsbad shirt today. I own a couple of them, not the kickboxing one, just Carlsbad itself. But please, do not let this be your representation for Carlsbad people.
You gotta follow your dreams. And that's what he said. He's literally giving us life advice, and I'm sitting and going, I don't know, maybe he has a point. Maybe he does. Maybe all these young people that we have on the show today have left an impression.
We are following our dreams, Darren. Section 1904. It's been our dream for ages.
All right, stay tuned. We'll be around over the weekend in some capacity. Not sure exactly what it looks like. Padres, Dodgers, SDFC, Portland Timbers. Been a fun week. Thank you all for the support. If you enjoy your experience with Section 1904, how about telling some friends or some family members?
Yeah.
We would love that for you to help spread the word and help us expand our community. I think it's good for all of us, not just for John and for yours truly. All right. Enjoy the weekend. We will be back with the weekend recap on Monday. We'll be around over the weekend. Again, thank you for all the support, and we'll do it again soon.
Ooh, I saw stars falling